What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, January 14th, 2021. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. And we have a lot to talk about today. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials and keeping us out of trouble. And as usual, we're going to do news until we run out of news, and then we're going to open up the phone lines and let you call on in with your comments and questions and opinions and observations and so forth. As you are no doubt already aware, Donald Trump was impeached by the House yesterday, making him the first U.S. president to be impeached twice, and only the fourth successful impeachment in all of U.S. history. And, what's really interesting is how many Americans did not want this to happen, including in the states that supposedly Biden won. Little bit of a disconnect going on there. And this was just pure political theater, because nothing happens to Trump by being impeached until the Senate holds a trial and removes him from office. And he's leaving office in a week. And so, the Senate can't possibly come to a vote before then. And this is all about politically damaging Trump so he can't run again in 2024, which shows you just how afraid the deep state is of him and his supporters. I mean, I imagine it's keeping them up nights thinking about all, the million people who showed up in D.C. a little over a week ago. So they're bringing down the hammer. They are going to destroy Trump, and they're out there trying to silence all of his supporters and separate them, and basically bring an end to the Make America Great Again movement that the globalists absolutely hate. Apparently, Donald Trump's approval numbers are still up there. Half of Americans still approve of him. And again, this is in stark contrast with the claim that most of America voted for Joe Biden. Now, interestingly enough, more and more information is surfacing about that siege at the Capitol. The story was breaking just before we went to airtime. The police officer who died apparently had a medical condition, and there is no evidence he was actually hit by that thrown fire extinguisher. So, this lionizing him and, the Trump supporters killed him and everything. Turns out, more fake news from the fake news networks. Meanwhile, the police in Washington, D.C. have rejected a Freedom of Information Act request for records related to their probe of the situation at the Capitol. And apparently some insider inside the Capitol leaked maps and internal documents to help assist the Antifa agents provocateur, rented lips, navigate the building. Now, we have it on videotape. They were allowed into the building by the internal security here. And, we're seeing more and more experts are saying this was all pre-planned. It was not, in fact, instigated by Donald Trump with his speech earlier in that day. Which means the entire excuse for impeaching Donald Trump was completely bogus as the election itself was. All right, Democratic Representative Benny Thompson is out there saying that Senators Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley should go on the no-fly list for daring to object to the Electoral College certification of Joe Biden. Now, of course, objecting is their right under the Constitution. So Thompson was being interviewed Monday on a Sirius XM station, and he said, even a member of Congress that commits a crime, they expel from the body, but no crime was committed. It is not a criminal act to object to Electoral College certification. It's written right into the Constitution. So again, they're just going after all of Trump's backers and supporters. Hammer and tong, law and Constitution be gosh darned here. Okay, over in North Carolina, Governor Roy Cooper has called up the National Guard to help with possible protests in Raleigh and the upcoming inauguration in Washington, D.C. Cooper mobilized 350 guardsmen for duty in Raleigh, helping state and local police, and the rest are joining the forces that are accumulating in Washington, D.C. And I saw a photo of the Capitol building. The National Guardsmen are literally sleeping on the floor inside the Capitol building right now as we head toward the inauguration. A little bit of news from the world of entertainment here. Apparently, there is going to be a primetime special on TV January 20th to celebrate the inauguration of Joe Biden, because, as you know, there's not going to be a real open inauguration for people to show up at because of COVID-19, they say. Supposedly, last word I got is he's going to take the oath of office up at the Supreme Court and have a virtual inauguration parade. I don't even really know what that means, but they're going to have a TV special that night hosted by actor Tom Hanks, and they're going to have appearances by celebrities including John Bon Jovi, Demi Lovato, Justin Timberlake, and Ant Clemens. And this is coming from Biden's inaugural committee. Okay, and of course, Biden and Harris will deliver remarks. So don't fail to miss the TV special for the inauguration. All righty, now here's where things are going to get really interesting. This doesn't stand a chance of actually happening, but it's nice that somebody's making the effort. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to introduce articles of impeachment against Joe Biden on January 21st. And she's a newly sworn in freshman representative from Georgia. And she's out there saying we have to make sure our leaders are held accountable. We cannot have a president of the United States who's willing to abuse the power of the office and can be easily bought off by foreign governments, foreign Chinese energy companies, Ukrainian energy companies. So on January 21st, I'll be filing articles of impeachment. Okay. Like I said, it's not going to go anywhere, but at least it's an important symbolic gesture. Biden is still loading up his administration with all these Obama holdovers and war hawks and neocons. And apparently a key architect of Obama's Asia pivot will be getting a top position on the National Security Council in charge of Indo-Pacific policy. This is Kurt Campbell, and he will serve as coordinator for Indo-Pacific affairs on the NSC as a deputy to Jake Sullivan, Biden's pick for National Security Advisor. Now, Campbell's appointment is a sign that Biden plans to prioritize alliance building in the Indo-Pacific to counter China. Campbell served as the State Department's top Asia diplomat from 2009 to 2013, and during his time, Campbell made frequent visits to Asian allies and led Washington's reshuffling of resources to focus on the Indo-Pacific, known as the Asia pivot. Okay, now, since a week ago Wednesday here, security at the Capitol is being beefed up, not just for the tourists and visitors, but for the members of Congress themselves. They have added new metal detectors. They're going to go ahead and ban the members of Congress from carrying firearms. And Nancy Pelosi says she's going to introduce fines for all members of Congress who refuse to accept metal detector screening. Well, now you know how we feel at the airports here. Several congressmen objected vociferously and refused to go through when they were introduced. Now, Pelosi can do this in the House of Representatives. I don't think she has the authority to do it in the Senate, but we're going to see what happens over there. Meanwhile, we are continuing to see fallout from the corporate social media crackdown on all things conservative. And the CEO of Gab which, by the way, does seem to have their new servers online because the website was responding very rapidly last time I checked here. And he said, I had very close relationships with Facebook and Twitter. I got to see the evils of their business model for many years. And what we're seeing in America right now is the rise of communism. It sounds good, but I'm afraid he's wrong. What we're seeing in America right now is the rise of fascism, which is when corporations and government work together against the ordinary people. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And by the way, that's not my definition. That comes from Benito Mussolini, who was the Olympic gold medal winner for being a fascist jerk. All righty, since the banning of Donald Trump, the combined market value of corporate social media, Twitter, Facebook, all the rest of them, has been $51 billion with a B dollars. And I have to imagine that probably some of their investors and stockholders are on the phones right now saying, what the heck are you doing? We are in this business to make money. Not to empower you to impose your political will at the public. And if you could make money doing it, we'd be okay with it. But you're losing money hand over fist. Over at Twitter, CEO Jack Dorsey basically said yesterday that banning Trump was the right decision for Twitter, but he then went on to admit the internet shouldn't be controlled by a handful of private companies. So I guess he's rethinking, what they did. And again, I think Twitter has lost about $5 billion of their value out of a 41 total before this all began here. But Dorsey came on out in a series of 13 tweets, and he said online speech resulting in real-world harm requires action, even if a ban on an account is divisive. Now, remember the story we talked about earlier, where experts are saying that the disturbance at the Capitol building was not caused by Trump. It was obviously pre-planned. So Twitter et al. Banned Trump for a bogus reason. And getting on back to Jack Dorsey, he's basically admitting that a dangerous precedent was set with the Trump ban. And it was ultimately a failure by Twitter to promote healthy conversation. And so I think he realizes how much he's damaged his brand, and he's trying to get people to come back to it. I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I personally have not used Twitter in a couple of years now, and I certainly have no intention of going back there. I'm on Gab. I'm starting to post to Gab. And when Parlay comes back, they're moving to new servers. I intend to spend some time over there as well. But as far as Twitter and Facebook is concerned, absolutely gone. I have no reason to ever go back to them here. All righty. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is now saying Congress will look at initiatives to rein in the media and unapproved press reports. Okay, they're going after freedom of the press, and they're going to go after the corporate media. Talk about a lack of gratitude for all that they've done for the deep state. But that's what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, in between, mixing the drinks at the Capitol Bar, is saying, yeah, they're going to rein in the media and unapproved press results. So from now on, you're only going to get U.S. government officially sanctioned propaganda fed to you by the TV news networks. Okay, article that came on out of LouRockwell.com talking about totalitarianism is upon us. And basically saying that with the hysteria over what happened last week at the Capitol, it's important not to allow the Georgia runoff elections to be forgotten about because of how a majority of liberty-minded Americans view what happened in Georgia. Still under the weather a bit. Determine the impact it will have on America's future. And they're absolutely right. We cannot allow the election fraud of 2020 and the runoff fraud in Georgia, to fade into history. We have to keep it alive. because it was the greatest election theft in U.S. history. Okay, now then, here we go. Interestingly enough, the reason that Amazon took down Twitter was this claim that Twitter was being used to coordinate the Capitol riot. But apparently, pardon me, rather Parler was taken down by Amazon because it was used to coordinate the Capitol riot. But somebody did an actual study and found out that most of the organizing for that took place on Facebook. All right? So again, projecting their crimes onto other people. Google has now joined the digital censorship of President Trump and his supporters. They have removed any new content from Trump's account and suspended his channel from posting any content until after the inauguration, claiming that the channel violated its policies for inciting violence, except that Trump didn't incite any violence. So these corporations literally deprive Trump of his free speech rights under the First Amendment. Another article, this one from Investment Watch blog, talking about how Google manipulates searches, which we know they've been doing for quite some time, so that when you search for any topic, what Google thinks you should be reading, it gets at the top of the list, and things that they prefer you not look at go down to the bottom if they show up at all. And the gist of this article is that you should switch over to DuckDuckGo to try and get more honest results for your questions here. Over at Twitter, pardon me, Jack Dorsey is mocking the Parler purge and, you know, basically trying to make fun of them, trying to make fun of what's, you know, these so-called competitors and fringe groups. But this is all heading to court. And now GoFundMe is joining the ranks of companies that use their positions to crush President Trump and his supporters. They are banning all fundraisers for travel to potentially violent political events, with GoFundMe deciding what could be potentially violent. So, I mean, the hammer is coming down. There's just no question about it here. But the upshot of it is people are abandoning Facebook and WhatsApp. They're moving to Telegram and Signal. They're looking for platforms where they can communicate without having Big Brother filtering everything that they're doing here. Okay, this actually came out on CNN, okay? CNN actually reported this. Investigators believe the riot at the Capitol was planned and was not inspired by Donald Trump. This was on CNN. And so, again, it means that Pelosi's impeachment of the president was based on absolute bogus, false claims. And I think that should be actionable. Two more Republican lawmakers have called on Liz Cheney to step down as House Conference Chair before she destroys the party. It may be a little bit too late for that one here. Down in Texas, the Attorney General Ken Paxton announced yesterday the arrest of a woman accused of voter fraud and depicted in online videos. And basically, the woman's name is Raquel Rodriguez. She's charged with election fraud, illegal voting, unlawfully assisting people voting by mail, and unlawfully possessing an official ballot. If she is convicted, she could be looking at 20 years in prison. So again, the evidence of election fraud keeps surfacing. You know, it's like, you know, the bubbles coming up to the top of the swamp. You can't stop them here. And apparently the source of evidence used against Rodriguez was video taken last fall and released online by Project Veritas. And, you know, Paxton said the Election Fraud Division of his office reviewed dozens of hours of unedited raw footage provided by Veritas, which ultimately led to the arrest. So well done, Project Veritas. They're doing good work over there. All right, we are coming up on our first commercial break here. When we come on back, we got a lot more news to get through and then eventually phone calls. So stay tuned. Welcome back to our show here. And again, a friendly reminder and nudge in the ribs that as we head into 2021, Republic Broadcasting Network needs your continued support that we may go on doing what we're doing, which is informing the American people so that they can make good choices. So once again, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. And all of this contact information is at the top of republicbroadcasting.org. The network thanks you. All right, so let's talk about COVID-19. It's still out there. And I want to basically sound a warning. There were a couple of videos that surfaced supposedly showing people having severe spasms following the vaccination. Now, one of them certainly appears genuine. That's the one that we linked to our website. There's another one out there which frankly looks to me like it's being faked. And it is a reminder that the vaccine industrial complex, if you will, is looking for a way to embarrass and silence people who are concerned about the efficacy and safety of these vaccines. So please be very careful and skeptical when you look at this material and before you forward it along here. Now, interestingly enough, according to this article in newstarget.com, Fauci has admitted the coronavirus vaccines don't prevent infection. Well, then what good is it? That's what I want to know. And they're saying that basically, all you can expect is it might maybe possibly reduce some of the symptoms associated with the infection, which means it's not really a vaccine, it's palliative care. That's basically it. And apparently Fauci told the media the other day that Trump's Operation Warp Speed jabs are unable to protect recipients against catching the virus, especially during the first round of injections. Okay, so again, now. Recently, Sasha Stone hosted a 2-hour live stream event called Focus on Fauci. You had guests, Dr. Rocco Galati, Dr. David Martin, Dr. Judy Mikovits, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And Dr. David Martin took his time in front of the camera, basically saying this experimental mRNA technology is not a vaccine, it is a medical device. And if you think about how it operates, he's absolutely making sense, because the idea is they're using a source DNA to create these messenger RNA molecules. That's what goes in the shot. They go into your body and cause your body to manufacture whatever it is they think that you're going to need. RNA, of course, is a highly unstable molecule, and it's one of the things that leads to things like cancer and so forth. But apparently, Dr. Martin has been making a lot of noise in the independent media by explaining that, these vaccines are not vaccines. They legally cannot be called vaccines because they're really medical devices. And again, going on back to that report about Dr. Fauci saying, no, this is not going to protect you from catching COVID-19. What's the whole point of having this thing? It seems to be no upside and all downside. Now, down in Texas, Felicia Parker passed away at a Houston hospital 5 days after she was admitted. They're saying that she died from the British super COVID strain, which is now spreading across the U.S. And they're now claiming there are 2 new homegrown variants of the virus detected in America. So be afraid, be very afraid, booga, 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 booga. All right. A 27-year-old personal support worker suffered a severe allergic reaction, including fainting, seizures, and hospitalization when she received the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. Now, Deborah Tilley had looked forward to receiving the vaccine, and she said, I wasn't scared. I was excited. I was like, I'm going to be one of the first healthcare workers to get this. So, she filled out the consent forms, and then noticed the nurse who was looking over her file exhibited a hesitation or lack of confidence how to proceed. And it turns out Deborah Tilley does have a severe allergy to bumblebees. This Tilley said it looked like the nurse didn't even really know what she was doing here. And Pfizer has already issued a statement that if you have allergies, you should not get the shot. This is Claire's, escape clause, if you will, because she's allergic to sulfa medications. We're going to take another break for commercials. Back with more news after these few words. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking about COVID-19, and apparently in the House of Representatives, House Democrats are proposing a new rule requiring members of Congress wear a mask while on the House floor, and the penalty for not wearing a mask is a $500 fine. And, looking in on the House floor, especially yesterday during the impeachment vote, there were a lot of people there who were not wearing the masks. Well, sauce for the goose and so forth. If we've got to all wear our masks, then so do you. Interesting little story that came out of MrMera.com talking about homeschooling. Now, fortunately, here in Indiana, our schools have reopened. The kids are going back in. But apparently, there have been a lot of problems with the virtual learning. And some of the problems that occurred included a girl who made a video recording of her reading silently to play up over the channel while she went and did other things. And apparently a teacher was complaining over rude messages on balloons that were being shown to the camera here. And apparently one person had an upside down picture of Boris Johnson. So, I guess they're getting bored there. Now, a little bit of hope out at California. Stay-at-home orders are lifted for 13 northern counties. Daily COVID admissions have dropped 30%. And Disneyland, this was just covered on the Fox News Channel. Disneyland in Anaheim has become a mass vaccination site, allowing people aged 65 and up to receive the shot. And so they're just cranking those people through here. And here in Indiana, it's people 70 and up are now being given the vaccine. And, they're not coming near me with that needle here. Anyway, it turns out, according to a story over in Mr. Mara again, China's COVID-19 vaccine is proving to be only 50% effective, far lower than the 78% originally claimed, according to studies being done in Brazil, where they're using China's vaccine. Now, going on back to Fauci's comment that the vaccine will not prevent you from getting the coronavirus, it sounds to me like its effectiveness is 0%. Something to think about. Down in Australia, scientists have called for a halt in the rollout of the AstraZeneca vaccine, claiming recent data has cast doubt on the vaccine's ability to create herd immunity. And don't forget, AstraZeneca had to halt their trials because some of their test subjects were getting transverse myelitis, which is a very, very serious condition. And apparently the scientists are looking at data from a study published in The Lancet last month that found the British-Swedish vaccine had only 62% efficacy compared with over 90% claimed for the Pfizer-BioNTech alternative. So apparently Australia has already purchased 53 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Over in Italy, 50,000 restaurateurs have decided to reopen in defiance of the COVID-19 restrictions for lunch and dinner, and they're banding together to form a political alliance. to try and stay open against the government wishes here. Apparently that gym in New Jersey that was defying the COVID lockdown, their assets have now been seized by the governor of the state. They had a GoFundMe page going to raise legal costs, and apparently that money has now all been seized, leaving them legally basically defenseless here. Over at Moderna, their CEO is saying we are going to have to live with COVID forever, which is his way of saying we're going to be rich for the rest of our lives. He believes the Moderna vaccine is protective against the new variants from Great Britain, South Africa, and Brazil. Talk about a cash cow there. Apparently, government officials in Michigan's Upper Peninsula are refusing to follow Governor Whitmer's unconstitutional destruction of the citizens' economic security and liberty. And apparently in Baraga County, officials were just out there saying enough is enough. They swear to uphold their oath to the Constitution and defy Whitmer. So we'll see what happens here. Apparently, officials have told Governor Whitmer to shove her totalitarian COVID rules where King George don't shine. Over in Great Britain, apparently they have handed out almost 45,000 COVID fines for breaches of the coronavirus lockdown laws. I mean, they're handing out tickets for people having snowball fights, just really silly things like that. And apparently the National Police Chiefs Council Chairman, Martin Hewitt, said that he makes no apologies for handing out the massive number of fines. And I'm sure it's generating a great deal of revenue as well. Now, in other medical news, and this is good news because this has been a real problem for a while. Apparently, to drive down the price of insulin, the World Health Organization is going to certify generic versions. And they're basically saying this is designed to ease shortages in the poorer countries. And the World Health Organization is going to begin testing and approving generic versions of insulin. Now, right now, the world's insulin market is dominated by 3 companies, Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, and Sanofi, and they have been steadily pushing up prices for 2 decades. Sounds like collusion and monopoly to me. So the World Health Organization is now taking steps to try and get insulin back to the people who really need it. Now, interesting, there has been evidence released from a recent British court case which ruled that puberty blockers are experimental treatments and that children are too young to consent to such drugs. Now, doctors termed puberty blocking treatment a live experiment and warned there was no research to defend using the treatment. So, a little bit of common sense coming on out there. So, anyway. Another analysis, real-time meta-analysis of 32 studies shows, once again, ivermectin is effective for COVID-19. And again, we had a story, I think it was yesterday, where one of the corporate social media companies blocked a European peer-reviewed, respected medical journal for daring to write that ivermectin was an effective treatment for COVID-19. But apparently on these 32 studies, 100% of them reported positive effects. Early treatment is more successful. Prophylactic use also shows high effectiveness. So again, this is, it's a threat to their profits, and that's why they're trying to silence it and shut it down here. Getting into the international news now, apparently 70 Syrian notables have been assassinated in YPG-controlled areas. And the areas controlled by the YPG, which stands for the People's Protection Units, this is in Deir ez-Zor. They're witnessing assassination of notables and respected personalities on an almost daily basis. and local sources in the government revealed they had documented about 70 assassinations of notables over the last 5 months. The sources told the Anadolu news agency that unknown individuals carried out assassinations on a daily basis since the murder of leader of Al-Qidat tribe, Mutashar al-Hafal, in August of last year, taking advantage of the significant security deteriorations in the area. Meanwhile, over in Iran, they have launched missiles. They had the Iranian Navy began a short-range missile drill in the Gulf of Oman and inaugurated its largest military vessel. And this is, of course, heightening tensions between Iran and other countries here. Over in Israel, protesters have gathered outside Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's residence to highlight his corruption trial, which is set to resume next month. And police said at least 7 demonstrators were arrested for disorderly conduct. The demonstration was organized by the Crime Minister, one of several groups that have sprung up in recent months calling for Netanyahu to resign over the trial and his government's handling of the coronavirus. The world would be a better place without Netanyahu in office, I think, here. Okay, apparently a U.S. vehicle safety agency, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, say that 3 times fast, has asked Tesla to recall 158,716 older vehicles over glitches in the touch screen. These include the Model S and Model X vehicles manufactured before 2019. And apparently owners were saying that the glitches in the touch screen led to the loss of safety-related features. Now, the cars were made at Tesla's Fremont, California auto plant, and they include the Model X SUVs in the years 2016 to 2018. Okay, now, a little bit of news. I know this was controversial here, but basically, there was this woman. She was on death row, and there were all these petitions, you know, grant her clemency, and they wanted Trump to commute her sentence or pardon her. But you need to understand, this woman was convicted of strangling an 8 months pregnant woman and cutting the baby out of the womb to claim as her own. And, you know, she was executed finally after all the federal appeals courts. And so that's ugly, ugly. There are, unfortunately, evil people in the world. There really are. I'd like to say everybody's good, but they're not. Okay, a powerful storm with 70-mile-per-hour winds has hit the Pacific Northwest. Apparently, a woman died when a tree fell on her car. Another person is missing in a landslide. 11 million people are being told to brace for snow and flooding. 500,000 people are without power. Gosh darn, that human-caused global warming. And of course, they're getting global warming powder all over the southern United States. They got hit in Texas with some heavy snow there as well. We're expecting snow here tomorrow and Saturday. So I'll get a picture of that for you as well. Won't be as much as they got in Texas, but there'll be some. Now, longtime readers and listeners are aware that I question the dogma of the Big Bang Theory. And like epicycles, a whole science discipline, if you will, has sprung up trying to defend the concept rather than question the original base assumption. And this is a repeat of when the approved view of the solar system had the Earth at the center and everything else revolving around it, because that suited certain religions who imagine that God sits up nights to admire us. And then, of course, Galileo came along with his telescope, discovered the sun was the center of the solar system. They tortured him into recanting that. And I think we're going through the same mistake again with this whole Big Bang. There are so many problems with that theory, one of which is that the perceived expansion from the redshift, which can be caused by other things besides relative velocity, things like Rayleigh scattering and so forth, the math never worked out, and that's led some scientists to say, well, there has to be dark matter out there that explains the strange gravitational behavior of galaxies and galaxy clusters here. And so according to the theory they came up with, dark matter makes up 3/4 of all the matter in the universe, but it's never been detected. And again, it's a prevailing theory to explain why Big Bang is supposed to still work. But apparently, in research published in November in the Astrophysical Journal, scientists report tiny discrepancies in the orbital speeds of distant stars that they think reveals a faint gravitational effect, and one that could put an end to the theories of dark matter. They're saying maybe dark matter doesn't exist at all, and I would tend to agree. It's like a modern version of the epicycles that tried to reconcile the observed motions of the planets with the theory of an Earth-centered solar system. Okay, let's see. We're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines now. Area code 512-248-8252, and get back to some news here for the science stuff. This is an article that came on out of Forbes, no less, and they're saying basically that soil loss is costing U.S. corn farmers an estimated $500 million each year. Now, they're not talking about the soil simply vanishing, although some of it does run off during the rain. They're basically talking about soil deterioration, which is the soil becomes depleted of nutrients needed by the plants. And if the nutrients aren't in the soil, the nutrients are not going to be in the food, and you're not going to be getting the nutritional value from the food that you'd like to be getting. So apparently there's a new study out of the University of Colorado, and they basically estimated that this soil deterioration is costing America's corn farmers up to $500 million each year, primarily in the costs of fertilizers to try and replace the soil's lost nutrients. And being in farming country, I can understand how that might work. Now, here's a little bit of strange serendipity. We're all familiar with solar cells. We're all familiar with the fact they're not very efficient. But apparently, Qinya Bao at the East China Normal University in Shanghai have discovered somehow that adding capsaicin to ultra-thin perovskite solar cells increases their efficiency. Now, capsaicin is what makes chili peppers spicy. And apparently they're saying that this capsaicin might have an energy boosting effect because it can free up electrons that go on to carry the charge from the solar cell to the batteries or motor or whatever. And so, wow, what an amazing discovery. Okay, we're going to be right back after these few commercials. Phone lines are open. Welcome back to our show here. The phone lines are loading up here, and let's start with Kelly in Austin. Hello, Kelly. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Okay, Mike, you should know that when you mention the Big Bang, you're going to get the attention of a geologist.
Okay.
I've tried to make sense of the Big Bang too, and instinctively it makes sense to me on one level. I guess the problem I have with it is according to the Big Bang theory, everything starts out as a singularity, and it's that singularity that I have a problem with, because conceptually I can't really make that work. But we do know that the universe is expanding.
Well, we think the universe is expanding. It's assumed that the redshift is caused by relative velocity, but it's also known that other things can cause a shift toward the red of a spectrum over long distances. Like I mentioned, Rayleigh scattering is one of them.
Yeah, and I'll grant you that.
Okay.
But science in science, you attempt not to prove hypotheses. You really attempt to disprove hypotheses. And to the extent that, say, there are people working in the field of cosmology who are trying to prove something, they're not doing themselves or their area of study any favors. Again, I'm open to it, and to me, you have to be able to test your hypotheses, and you have to be able to test a potentially falsifiable hypothesis. Too much of what we see in science now is driven by political objectives, which
Agreed.
are designed to say,
or religious objectives.
Or religious objectives. You're right. But again, I have to say that as a geologist, I mean, I have no idea where this all came from. I have to tell people, look, I'm a geologist, not a cosmologist. And on one level, the Big Bang makes a great deal of sense to me, except that I have a problem with the singularity concept.
Okay.
And I think I think a great many other people working in the field of science would have a problem with that as well. I really haven't heard a cosmologist come up with a coherent explanation of what the singularity really was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fascinated by the idea of there being multiple universes.
Yes.
I have a couple of books in my library here dealing with that. I haven't gotten through them yet, but it's conceivable that there could be multiple universes, multiverses. Yes. So it was so your comment really caught my attention, and I just wanted to tell you that if you to discuss the Big Bang coherently, you have to be able to explain the concept of a singularity, and I've not really heard what I think is a coherent explanation of that. Although, again, I'm certainly more than receptive to the idea of the Big Bang as a theory.
Okay, well, I just posted my article on the Big Bang to whatreallyhappened.com, so you can take a look at it. And I need to update it because there's been some additional stuff that's come on out. I mean, they found yet another galaxy even further out. And so once again, they're saying, well, I guess the universe was now created, 13.6 billion years ago, because that's the farthest object that we can see.
Yeah. Well,
all righty.
I'll have to read that. And I'll be looking forward to reading that, Mike. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much here, Kelly. We got to let you go and take a station identification break. More phone calls when we come on back. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. And we're going to go to the phones to Joe in California. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Mike, I'll be preparing a virtual middle finger to Biden, Harris, his entire cabinet, and all of his supporters.
Okay.
Mike, I hate to throw cold water on, a lot of these Trump supporters are, I guess they're confident that after 2 years, the Biden agenda is going to, it's going to be a disaster. But they're I think they're overconfident that they're going to make these huge gains. Either the Republican Party or any new populist party will make big gains in the midterms. But aren't they forgetting the new normal with these fraudulent elections? Not to mention,
they very much are. And, the Democrats are not going to do anything to change the system by which they won.
Exactly.
They're the beneficiaries. I mean, they're going to keep it all in place. They're going to try and reassure us that the elections can be trusted. There's going to be a media blitz. You're already seeing it where every time they mention the accusations of election fraud, these adjectives like, bogus, unverified, unproven, debunked.
Exactly.
And that's the drumbeat that's going into the ears of Americans.
And you're going to see, prior to the midterms, you'll see phony polls once again to underpin the phony results. But they're also forgetting the millions of amnestied illegals and the new arrivals. They're going to be voting too. So
yes,
I think we've already entered a one-party state. I think it's over.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that's going to save this country is for Trump to declare martial law and wholesale arrests of the Pelosi's, the Schumers, the Schiffs, the Nadlers, the AOCs, the Soroses, the Gates, the Faucis. That short of that, we're finished. And
Yes.
as far as your reference to fascism, I mean, I agree with you, but if you look at the long-term agenda, this global reset where you don't own anything, that's communism, because somebody's going to own it. It's just going to be the elites. And I just wanted to ask you this, Mike, referencing that, the global reset, do you ever foresee a time in this country under this global reset where you don't own anything, but where homeowners who live alone and they live in a spacious house, will they be forced to open their homes to amnestied to illegals or amnestied illegals? Do you ever see that? You ever foresee that?
It could happen. It could definitely happen. I mean, following the Russian Revolution, people who had larger homes were forced to take in, the homeless. And again, looking at the difference between communism and fascism, if this were a communist revolution, then we would not have these privately owned media companies that are causing so much damage. They'd all be state-owned and subject to the First Amendment.
Right, because exactly what you said about the Russian Revolution. You had 8 or 10 families living under one roof.
Yes,
and that's what I fear. I wonder if I should sell my house before this all comes down. But Mike, also, then I'll let you go. Oh, you'll let me go. Do you ever think that Trump was just this invention that was meant to discredit the white nationalist movement? I mean, do you ever give credence to that possibility? He was just invented.
No, he was just a vain man who wanted to be president just so he could say he was president. And he proved to be easily manipulated. He's very weak, which is why I am not accepting the declaration of martial law or anything like that. He certainly was angry enough when the election was stolen from him, but I think he's accepted it, and he's just ready to move on to the next chapter of his life.
Is it an act, though? Because, I mean, I heard Layla yesterday. She seems to have changed her tune, because last week she was saying, she was very critical of Trump. And then yesterday she's saying she still has faith. And I really listen to Layla. I find her brilliant. But I sometimes think he was just an invention. I don't know. Pardon me. Maybe I'm 50-50. Sometimes I think he was an invention, and publicly he'll be seen as, they'll go after him publicly, but privately he'll be taken care of.
No, I think they're really going to go after him and crush him because they want to crush, the MAGA movement, which the globalists hate. They want to crush populism, which is a threat to their continued power. And I think they're really going to go after him legally. They're going to try and destroy his business empire. And basically make it impossible for him to consider a run in 2024.
I would just like to see someone be a new standard bearer. I don't want to see him in 2024. I'd like to see somebody with his views, his policies, but not Trump.
Okay.
He's just a distraction, Trump. That's my wish. Because I support his domestic policy as far as securing the border, going after this critical race theory. I hated his foreign policy. I just like to see maybe Rand Paul will be that person. Maybe not. Maybe that person hasn't appeared yet on the scene. But I don't want it to be Trump. He's just a very flawed man. Yes,
he is. He's been a tremendous disappointment. But I still would have preferred him over Biden and Harris.
Oh, me as well. No doubt. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for the call. We're going to switch over to Marco in Alabama. Hello, Marco. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
First off, dude, that caller's spot on, dude, on a lot of things.
Yes.
I want to keep reiterating the fact, dude, that there is going to be no 2024. And the Republican Party is finished and all that stuff. I mean, when you got Cumulus media, dude, going out there and destroying Trump supporters. I mean, basically, I got into it, dude, with one of the local DJs there, and I'm already starting, a bunch of people, dude, getting ready, dude, to protest in front of the radio station. Because basically, what he's going out there and saying is that that because of Trump supporters, the Republican Party, dude, is finished and all that stuff. What other candidate, dude, did we have? We were going to get a shill, weak Jeb Bush. We were going to get, some kind of, weak candidate, dude, that was going to lose to Hillary Clinton to sit here and continue to save face. We were tired of losing. We were tired of getting beaten. Barack Obama should have never gotten a second term. And basically, when you guys got to start finding your Cumulus radio stations, all of you, and sit there and just listen to it for an hour. Just listen to it for an hour. It is not even Republican anymore. I mean, it just sounds traitor. I mean, total, you know, the greatest appeal, dude, despite all of his flaws, the greatest appeal, dude, that Donald Trump had is that he respected the common man and all that stuff, dude. And that's what we needed for the longest time, dude, because in 2012 and 2008 and all that stuff, man, all we were getting was these elitist, George Bush-esque globalists, dude, that didn't care about what we wanted or anything like that, or any of our concerns, dude, going forward. I mean, like the Obama administration, dude, was some great time. I mean, all I remember of the Obama administration was extended unemployment, cash for clunkers, and $300 stimulus checks, dude, and being told, dude, that, you know, I'm white, dude, and I need to sit here and let minorities, dude, come into my business instead of having, you know, the best qualified candidate. I mean, dude, we're done. We are finished, dude, as a country, dude. If we sit here and fracture ourselves, and no, there is no Trump-esque candidate, dude, going forward. We need a strong man to bring back, dude, the Republican Party. And somebody, dude, that, you know, would be willing, dude, you know, to sit here and buck the trend, dude. I mean, I'm talking about not being weak, dude, like Donald Trump was. I mean, the strong man, dude, that I would have called martial law. You know, would have never let, you know, Biden, dude, call him a fool, dude, on national television. You know, never put up with some of the things, dude, that Trump put up with, dude, for the sake of trying to appease liberals. Screw liberals. Look where we're at right now, dude, because of this. We are all hunted right now.
Yes.
Have a good day, you guys.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot. And speaking of Cumulus, we did a story, I think it was just yesterday, where Cumulus literally sent out a memo to all their conservative hosts saying that if they ever mention election fraud again, they would be fired. So, yeah, Cumulus has definitely been brought to heel there. We're going to switch over now to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, well, the first thing on my mind, you know, Cumulus got to be told, you guys want to go out of business? Go right ahead. You see what's happening now in social media. I didn't even realize they were taking that big of a beating. You know, like, was $52 billion they lost in the last few days?
Yep.
Look at what's happened to Fox News. News is on the verge of bankruptcy, I think. They've lost so many viewers. So, you got to play their game. Money talks, and you know what walks.
Yes.
That's it. And as far as, I just want to ask you something. Did you say before that Sacha Baron Cohen conducted some kind of a meeting between people like, you know, what was her name? Dr. I can't pronounce her name. She's got like an Eastern European name, but she's very good. The way she took on the whole COVID hoax. Did you say he conducted some kind of a meeting?
No, I'm not. I don't remember mentioning him. I'm not a huge fan of him. And
I'm not.
I did talk about, you know, Tom Hanks is emceeing a primetime special on an inauguration night. But no, I don't remember.
You said something about people getting together, including Dr. Judy Mishkowitz or something like that. Her name is Mikowitz. And you said it was put together by that guy Cole, which surprises me because this guy is a hardcore leftist. So if that's the case, then it looks like maybe my own theory about the fact that they're getting ready to blame this horrible vaccine on Trump. And
yeah, I'm afraid Trump has set himself up, to get the blame for all the adverse reactions and ineffectiveness of it. I remember the article you're talking about. They had Robert F. Kennedy Jr. On the panel, but it was moderated by somebody named Cohen, but it wasn't Sacha Baron Cohen, who's comedian, actor, and did that whole Borat thing.
Borat. Yeah, all right. I thought you said Sacha Baron Cohen.
No.
But okay, but whatever the case is. These things like this are getting, this impeachment stuff. All this does is make Trump more popular among his constituency. It doesn't hurt him. All right, it makes him more like a martyr. But this thing with the vaccine, this guy, and he keeps it up. He doesn't shut up about it. I had to turn him off the other day when he started again bragging about this horrendous vaccine. That and even these corporations now are admitting, right, that like if you have allergies or something, it's a lot more that you shouldn't take it.
Yes.
So everybody just says, I have an allergy to bee stings myself. Okay.
Yes.
When I get stung by them, I hop up and down I hop and down. You know.
Yeah.
So it's even worse.
My younger brother's
So
allergic to bee stings. We found out I had to destroy my hide.
I'm just kidding. I mean, but I have the natural reaction when I get stung. I hop up and down, right? I got stung a couple of years ago. I was mowing the grass by a bunch of bees, a bunch of yellow jackets. I hit a nest, you know.
Okay, well, but yellow jackets aren't bees.
They're wasps. Yeah, they're hornets.
Yeah.
Actually, but I mean, you know, hornet is even more poison. You know.
Yes.
So, but you know, some people it's deadly. One sting can kill you. You know.
Yes.
So people are allergic to just about anything, and who knows what the long-term effect is on top of it. I was talking to somebody. Most people I talk to say they won't take it, but I was talking to somebody today that I had to take my car in for something today, and the guy at the desk there, I know him and all that. He said he'd take it, right? His daughter said it's okay or something like that. But the guy is way overweight and stuff, and you know, I guess he figures his immune system might not be that good. What he doesn't realize is this could even be worse for him. Take this shot, you know, because it seems to wreak havoc. To me, that's the most important issue right now, because this could kill literally millions of people and make other people sterile, millions of others sterile. God knows what else it could do. And it's also good to see Twitter really, you know, taking a short steer with Uganda. That's beautiful. And also, you know, that I understand Modi in India doesn't like the idea what they did to Trump. Even Angela Merkel, who can't stand it, doesn't like the idea that these corporations have this much power. And this is why I'm saying I keep telling people the problem is not socialism so much as it's predatory capitalism. We're like you could say it's fascism too, but it's really predatory capitalism where people and corporations get so rich that they just eat up everything else. You know what I mean? Like, that's why it's predatory, including winding up owning the government. One of the worst decisions the Supreme Court made, and yet I know so-called conservatives and libertarians were celebrating it, was that the Citizens United case, which said a corporation is basically a person.
Yes.
That was disastrous. That didn't do any good. It needs to be reversed. You know what I mean? Though I doubt the Supreme Court today would reverse it. But also another thing, too, about time to start lawfare against like these crooked elections and stuff like that. You've got to stop these mail-in ballots. They've got to be stopped. Now, most states are still under the control of Republicans, from what I understand. They have Republican legislatures. Most of them have governors. They got to make sure they can stop these things outright. Say no more mail-in ballots. You want to vote? You come to the polling place and you vote. You don't want to vote? You're afraid you're going to catch a cold or whatever virus this is, stay home. That's what they got to do. It's got to stop. This nonsense has got to stop. This mass hypochondria that's happening around the country has got to end.
Yes.
Right? We got to get rid of these silly mask mandates too. I understand Florida doesn't have it. I think that's by the way, that to me, Governor DeSantis is a very good possibility for a president in 2024. So is maybe Kristi Noem of South Dakota. Both, you know, have told everybody else what they can do with their stupid mask mandates and all that.
Yes.
So I think that those two could be even a ticket right there. DeSantis is from a much bigger state, more well known, so he'd probably be at the top of the ticket. Noem as a vice president.
Okay.
That would be something. That would not be just your typical Republican fool. You know, we don't need a Romney or somebody. And I think Trump is going to be 78 years old by then. The man is fat. He's overweight. I don't know how healthy he really is. Okay, he's been beaten down, and he's shown that he's just not that smart to handle a lot of the problems that we have. He cannot handle the deep state. If he had known how to handle the deep state, we wouldn't be in a situation now. He would have gone after them from the beginning. He would have put his own people in power. He would have gotten
biggest mistake he made.
He would have put in a guy like Dave Clark, the sheriff in Milwaukee County, who was one of his biggest supporters. 2016. He'd have put somebody in there like that as FBI director, not another shyster lawyer who's got a lot of experience in the Justice Department, instead of a constitutional sheriff. But he didn't do it. He put the wrong people in there, and he didn't learn. He gets rid of one bad attorney general, and then he puts in an even worse attorney general. So what do you expect? I mean, you know, it was a foregone conclusion. The man does not know what he's doing. Why people have this cultist love of the guy is beyond me. He's done some good things, yes. I'll be the first one to admit it. But he's also put us into the situation we're in now. He didn't do anything about the fraudulent votes. I mean, from the beginning, he could have changed. He could have gone after the. We know there was a lot of fraud in 2016. He formed the commission, and he gets rid of the commission. He just didn't do anything. He just didn't. Hopefully, the judges he's put in are going to do a good job. I don't know yet. We'll see. You know, I'm not just talking about the Supreme Court. I'm talking about regular federal judges that we got. So that's about it, Mike. And you know, I just pray for the best. Okay. And by the way, as far as them coming, you know, hunting us, they're not going to hunt us. They know better than that. They know, if they do the hunting, they will be the hunted. Okay. They will not come into, like, folks, don't be stupid. Don't go to these these state houses. Don't make a fuss. Don't let them set up another false flag. Stay home. Ignore it. Biden is a fool. He's not our president, really. Stole the election, but don't make him look good by acting like fools and attacking state houses or even yelling and screaming.
I'm worried there's going to be a false flag attack on Inauguration Day, you know, to push the anti-gun agenda. Anyway, Mark, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials here, and we'll be back with more phone calls after these few words. Welcome back to our show now. We're going to go back to the phones to Terry in California. Hello, Terry. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
To get your ease off yet, Mike, they're on sale for $200 off.
Well, you know, I don't actually have any pigs or cattle on the property. I got a lot of deer, but I'm not allowed to shoot them.
Yeah. I just want to say that Nancy Pelosi forgot to finish the sentence. She said, this proves that nobody's above the law, including the President of the United States. And she should have finished the sentence by saying, except for Hillary Clinton and other people in the top part of the government. So anyway, they had a video the other night of people that were breaking in the Capitol, and they identified one guy as a retired Air Force lieutenant colonel. And every time I see something like that, it brings a little something to the forefront of my mind since I'm retired. I think it was John Kerry was putting through this legislation that had to do because of Oliver North's conviction before he got out of his trouble, that said if you're convicted of a felony, you lose your military retirement. I don't know. Do you have any information on that? That kind of scares me every time I hear it, because if it ever happened to me, I don't plan to commit any felonies, but it's a little layer to keep me straight.
I actually do not know. Maybe somebody else does and can call on in. But I do know that, you know, if Trump had been, were convicted of a felony, he'd lose his pension and his Secret Service protection. But as far as regular military is concerned, I'm unaware of any penalties, from felony conviction other than the fact that you're going to go to jail.
Yeah, well, maybe Peter knows. He might call him or something.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get off then, Mike. I don't want to miss Tom when he calls in. He might express his opinion on immigration. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Okay. Well, by happy coincidence, Tom in Florida is our next caller. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Good day,
there you are,
day, Michael.
Yes.
And to Marco and Miles, we need more guys like Marco and Miles. We need those guys to call. And guys got to really wake up. Marco hit an awesome call. I mean, his call was right on the money. And, you know, Mike, I've been saying it for a long time. You got this, until your last caller, you got Pig Pelosi, okay, Mike? San Francisco, poop control, okay? Thousands of homeless Americans but she's talking crap about all the blacks. Hold on a minute, Mike. Yeah. So anyway, Mike, Heavy had a bad time. Yeah. So Mike, here's the deal.
Okay.
What's going on is you got Pig Pelosi in San Francisco. She lives in a $12 million home, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And she's telling white people that they're responsible for all these black people dying from COVID-19, the coronavirus.
Yes.
It's unbelievable to me, Mike.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. You got her spewing on all the media network that the white people in this country, white men and women, are responsible for Afro-Americans dying from the COVID-19 when the Chinese are pouring into San Francisco with anchor babies. It's just unbelievable to me, Mike. It's just unbelievable what's happening with this immigration situation. You know, I wanted to get on earlier right after Marco called, but I couldn't. But of course, I got to wait in line. But what he hit on was just like right on the number, man. I mean, it's like, Mike, we're facing obliviation. We're being obliviated. And if we don't do, I don't know what the answer is, Mike, other than I say CW. That's what it's going to end up leading to, CW. Because Pelosi out there spewing all this hate about white people. This pig lives in a multi-million-dollar home. You got that mad Maxine Waters going, impeach 45, impeach 45. Here you got all this insanity. We can't take any more of this, Mike. We can't. Impeach 45.
The nation's coming apart.
With the poop control. Do you know how much those people get paid in poop control, Mike, in San Francisco?
No, I do not.
They're making $85,000 a year. They'll go around cleaning up urine and feces all over cities, the sidewalks in San Francisco. Okay?
Okay.
I'm going to tell you, I told you a long time ago, Mike, on your show. The only way, and I'll let Marco and all your other callers understand this, the only way you can take this government back is by all the white people that can get federal government jobs. Because the Afro-Americans
Tom, I got to put you on hold.
Yeah.
Got to put you on hold. Don't hang up. Going to come right back to you after these commercials.
You got it, Mike.
Wait a minute. I may have jumped the gun. I thought I heard the music. Okay. All right. So we got about 30 seconds before the commercial break, Tom.
Okay. Yeah, Mike. So like I said, you know, I think the Chinese are totally behind taking over this country. The Chinese, the Russians ain't far behind. You got all these communists. Trump just put Cuba back on the list of terrorist sponsored states. I mean, communism is running all over, rampant, all over this place, all over this country. And if we don't stop it now, we don't have time in 4 years, like Marco said, to stop it. We have to stop it now.
Well, I think the problem is the rest of the world is now perceiving that the United States has become weak, and they're taking advantage of that. Now, don't hang up, Tom. I'm going to come right back to you after these commercials. Welcome back to our show here, and we're going to go back to the phones to Tom in Florida. Tom, what have you got to share with us again?
Well, you know, Mike, I just got to say this, Mike. You know, you got Pelosi and Pig Pelosi and all these Democrats like Nadler and all these people talking.
Okay, Tom, microphone closer to your mouth, please.
Can you hear me, Mike?
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Oh, okay. You know, I'm just saying this. Pig Pelosi and these Nadlers and these Adam Shifty pervert kid molester, whatever. I mean, all these people are talking crap about Trump and his supporters, but you got these demon rats that are so wicked and evil, it's unbelievable. And then the immigration, like Marco said, the immigration, we're wiped out, Mike. These people are all going to be voting, and you know they're not going to vote for white Anglo-American principles. They're going to go for the Democrats who gives them all the free handouts and freebies like you've been saying for years, Mike.
Yep.
This is all about how they can get more freebies. White man bad, orange man bad, white man's guilty about this and we're guilty about that. I mean, it's unrelenting. It's never going to stop until something very big goes down. I hate to say it. It's going to have to be a big, giant movement of no more of this nonsense. You know, Mike, there's a giant continent in South America and Mexico. Why aren't they going over to those countries? Why are they coming to North America? Why, Mike? Why are all these Democrats wanting to bring all these Afro-Sub-Saharan Africans over to the United States, like Maine and Minnesota? Why, Mike? What is the reason? Why are white women having more babies? What's going on here? It's a total wipeout of the white Northern European stock. It's exactly what this is all about. And the Zog is behind it because you know why? They'll never forget Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany. That's what I got to say. They're punishing all whites who saved their butt in World War II, Mike. The white Russians saved them from annihilation. They would have been wiped out if it weren't for the white Anglo Northern Europeans. Who's kidding who? And these lying rats and these media networks are running our narrative. They're not even the majority, Mike. They're a small minority telling the majority what to do. It's the asphalt telling the gasoline what to do. It's got to stop and desist immediately. Or it's going to be 1,000 million times worse than they saw in the Capitol building. They need to start protecting what they got here in this country, Mike. You can't be worried about all the other countries. As far as China goes, I don't know where this Wuhan flu came from, Mike, but you know in your heart Donald Trump would have won this thing in a landslide if that Wuhan flu would have never hit last January. Am I lying?
Well, I think I disagree with you. I think Trump was doomed to lose because he did not take decisive action regarding election fraud. And again, there was a unanimous Supreme Court decision that said presidential elections are federal elections, and that gives the federal government authority to go into the states and say, you will conduct the election according to these rules.
Well, Mike, I do stand corrected. You're right about that. I got to back up. I did make a statement, and you're right. I told you that Trump needed to clean up the election, and I also told you that the day that mayor got away in that Oakland, California, not getting arrested by Trump and the feds, that's when I knew Trump was going to lose this election. I knew because right then and there, Title 8, sanctuary cities, nobody followed the law. The law has been broken for 30 years after the 65 Immigration Act, and now look at us. Look at our country, Mike.
Yes.
It's a catastrophe. Look at California. I mean, there's your Arizona. It's right there. Texas is going to be next. Once Texas goes blue, Mike, it's all over anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Think about it. Once Texas is a blue state, which will be happening probably here in the next 10, 15 years, it's all over anyway, Mike. It's going to be we're going to have to. It's going to be probably a conflict, a massive conflict. No question about it.
I'm afraid you're right. We seem headed that way, and no way to stop it.
I am right, but I am right.
Okay.
Because right now, Mike, this country cannot absorb any more of this immigration. We need a 50-year moratorium on immigration, and let's start taking care of American people first, last, and always. And let's give them the best health care. And angel mothers and fathers has not been talked enough in my book. And the fentanyl situation, where all these Americans dying, 78,000 in 2015 died of drug overdose from drugs pouring into our country. If the drug's not here, these kids can't do taking all these drugs and dying. So who's kidding who, Mike? Anyway, have a great
fentanyl can be created in a laboratory. It's not like they have to smuggle it in like cocaine. You know, fentanyl can be made in a lab like meth.
True. But anyway, Mike, like I said, some great calls. Everybody's got their own opinion, and that's why this country is the greatest country in the world. Hopefully it can stay that way. But the demon rats, you can't have an opinion with them. You're a bad man.
No, they're showing that right now with all the social media shut down. I'm amazed YouTube hasn't yanked my channels yet. Yep.
Well, we don't want that to happen, but we got to fight back, Mike. That's all I can say. We got to fight back. Like I always say, John Adams said it best. With the gun, you'll be a citizen. Without the gun, you'll become the subject. Look at Cuba. Look at Venezuela. There it is. All right, Mike. Thank you for taking my call. Have a great day. Thanks.
All right, same to you, and we're going to switch to Miles in Maine. Hello, Miles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Michael. Aloha, Michael.
Aloha.
Hey, I'm just kind of perplexed by, I've heard a few people with this contention now. North Carolina, who, always has some kind of something to bang on Trump. And, even you and Tom agreed. And I hear this reiterated all the time about this election. Trump should have done something. But if you recall and go back, Trump tried to challenge these elections. And I'm glad that was just brought up about how it was a federal elections decision that the elections are federal. Trump went to those states to attempt to change those laws early on. And they rebuked him, every one of the blue states.
Yes.
It was a solid line against him. So he did try.
Yeah, but he didn't try hard enough. He shrugged and he turned it over to the Department of Homeland Security, which did nothing.
Whitmer, when you got Whitmer and you got Newsom and you got Cuomo and you got all these other jugheads, what are you going to do? And then you got a Supreme Court agreeing with them all. What are you going to do? So, Trump has tried, and this caller, now Marco is he's some good and upcoming talent for our side. Mm-hmm. He makes some good presentations, but he's still got a lot to learn, I can tell when I listen to him. You know, he agreed with that caller that was before him, and that caller was really off base. He's talking about, well, we don't want Trump, but maybe someone like Trump. So wait, what are you telling me? You don't want the originator? You want to go for an imitator? It doesn't make sense. Trump, what don't these people get? Trump told these people months ago, he said, I'm making enemies with some very powerful and important people. And he has been.
Yes.
He has. Okay? We're never going to see, we probably will never see another guy like this. Yeah, does he do this? Does he do that? Does he give Israel? Tell me one guy that isn't going to give Israel something. Rand Paul will get on his hands and knees and throw a yarmulke on his head and bang his head off the wall. And that's what this guy, maybe Rand Paul? No, not Rand Paul. Maybe Ron Paul, but that horse left the barn. So, you know, this is, you know, these people with these idealistic and supernatural beliefs that this miracle is going to just happen and Thomas Jefferson's going to appear isn't going to happen. And by the way, you know, Trump's not perfect. I want to know from number 1 to 45, can you tell me the one that was perfect?
No.
Because I've been waiting to find out who that one is. I want to resurrect that DNA. And this is all I hear with this circular nonsense. I mean, it's way beyond all this now. We're not looking at Trump. We're not looking at, you know, who's doing this and who didn't prosecute that. We're looking at the choice between good and evil, between communism and having some type of modicum of freedom that we can at least fight from behind them. That's what we're looking at. And these people need to realize that and bring themselves back down to earth instead of this euphoria, you know, LSD psychotropic trip they're on, dreaming that, oh my God, we're in the land. We're just waiting to get back to the land of Jefferson, Adams, and Madison, you know, because it's not there and it won't ever be there. You know, if we don't get these elections under control, that's the fight. It's not Trump. It's not that. The fight is this election was stolen, rigged, corruption, fraud. That's where we're at. Thank you, Michael. Have a great show.
All right. Well, thank you very much here. And we're going to switch to Tom in Indiana. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Mike, I love your show.
Thank you.
I just want to say I get tired of these guys, the same rhetoric, going back into the past. The past is the past. What we have to look for.
I agree. It's time to focus on Biden.
No, the only future is, I took an oath to the Constitution, and a lot of the guys did. I'm sure that there's millions of us out there. But the only one that can right this ship is Trump. Trump can right the ship. He's in charge of the Army until the 20th. And all he's got to do is say, hey, this is an insurrection. I want to have my people follow me. And he's got the Army already until that time on the 20th when he doesn't have the Army anymore. And they got those big fences around the Capitol right now.
Yes.
To catch all those wrecks. And you can call him anything you want, and some of the guys do. But I think he's the only one that can save our future. You know, all you guys are talking about doom and gloom and taking this. I've lost his cell phone number, so I can't call Trump. But maybe somebody can. And that's all I got to say, and I like your show.
Well, thank you very much here. And unfortunately, I don't think Trump is strong enough to do that. Although we just got a story that came on in where he's about ready to issue more pardons and declassify a bunch of information about Burisma and try and get special counsels appointed for Biden. But it's too little too late is really what it is. All right, so we're going to switch over. Boy, we've had all these Toms calling in. This is Thomas in New Mexico. Hello, Thomas. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I'll get to the point. Thank you for taking my call, Michael. I just want to say I personally believe that this fiasco about this COVID-19 is a bunch of lies, BS. It's a fake virus. It been isolated, so
Correct.
and the tests are not accurate.
Correct.
And also, the last thing I want to say is that there is a doctor. The vaccines are not safe, and there's a doctor that just died recently in Miami. That after he took the vaccine, he was healthy, and then after he took the vaccine, he died. I'm sure people are aware of that already. And then a new topic I'd like to mention, there was a caller that called in, and he asked a question, if you can keep your pension if a person has a felony.
Yeah.
I never had a felony, but I know somebody that's in prison in New Mexico, close to El Paso, at Otero County Prison. Somebody I know that's down there, and he has a felony, and he's still getting his pension. He has a veteran's pension. The guy is a veteran. He's 67 years old, and he still gets his pension. So I just thought I'd mention that.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay, that's all I got. Thank you for taking my call.
All right, you've got it here, and we got a lot of phone lines open right now. If you've been trying to call on in, we're going to go to Peter in Los Angeles. Hello, Peter. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, all these people talking about the elections and so on. It's the root of the matter is the Federal Reserve, which enabled all these people, all their kinsmen, to buy up all these media companies. It also enables them to take what'd you say, $5-10 billion losses?
Yes.
To their stockholders, right? Because hey, they don't care. They can print money out of nothing, and their kinsmen will give it to them. And stockholders be damned. They're not going to lose control or anything because the bank is behind them. If you can control, print money out of thin air and never be audited, what can't you accomplish?
Well, remember what one of the Rothschild ancestors said, give me control of a nation's currency, and I care not who makes the laws.
Yeah, that was Amstel Rothschild, the patriarch. But yes, Mike, there are all these lawsuits of the people who have been deplatformed and thrown off from Facebook and all these other Facebook and all these other places, Google. But I think there's one in Minnesota now, or South Dakota, excuse me. They'll never go anywhere. Can you imagine the kind of money that's going to come down on these lawsuits? You think they've just fixed an election that was a landslide for our guys, for the good guys. They completely fixed it right in our face.
Yes.
The media doesn't cover it. The media doesn't cover their crimes. And if you say anything, you're doxxed. There's how many hundreds of thousands of people show up to the rally, and they can turn that right on its head. There isn't even a presentation of the evidence against the election. There isn't.
Court refused to look at it.
Yeah, they can do all of that. They control everything. And let's get our enemies. That's Trump's biggest failing. He never really realized who the enemy really is. That's who the enemy is. And what they fear in Trump and fear in that crowd that showed up in Washington that was law-abiding and everything else, really, except for the Antifa guys and especially compared to Black Lives Matter, for Christ's sake. But what they fear is a mob like that, and they can be totally doxxed now. They can be totally jujitsu'd into being insurrectionists and all that because of the media, because of the lockstep media portrayal of it. And we'll never, until we get these guys out of the banks, which is a source of everything, and then out of the media, and frankly out of Hollywood and entertainment, at least controlling what films are made about and what kind of films and shows are made, nothing will change. They're setting the cultural paradigms. They're setting everything, and that's the root of it all right there. And the banks and the media, including Hollywood TV.
Okay.
But we're not going to go anywhere without that. And by the way, even in red states, if red states, if you don't have the biggest cities, which generally are blue, even within a red state, that's where they do the counting.
That's just where
that's
they
really
do
where the
fraud.
counting takes place.
Yes.
That's right. And the fraud is done in the blue pockets of red states too. So,
okay, well, Peter, I got to let you go. We got to take our last commercial break here. We got a bunch of calls to get through in our last segment, and we will be back after these few words. Welcome back to our show here, final segment on this Thursday, and we're going to go back to the phones to Victor in India. Hello, Victor. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello.
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 Hello, you're on the air.
Actually, we're talking, somebody was talking about that the coronavirus has not been isolated.
Yes.
Okay. I was actually reading some article regarding a completely different thing about isolating bacteria and other things from, say, like a group of bacteria if you want to isolate or you want to identify. So isolating is very difficult. So in around 2004 approximately, they invented a new technique like, cutting up all the DNA and trying to identify. It's like how they did the Human Genome Project.
Yes.
And it works with bacteria because each bacteria has got only a single loop or strand of DNA. So you can identify the bacteria without actually isolating it. This method was. Hello?
Yeah, we're dealing with a virus, not a bacteria, and unfortunately, tests they're using.
The concept is the same.
Yes.
I think the concept is the same. That is what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay.
So they can identify it without actually isolating or purifying it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to go to Lauren in Ohio. Hello, Lauren. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Okay, I was going to talk about corporations are persons. A corporation, your name in all capital letters, is a corporation. Corporations can only do business with corporations, and men can only do business with men, and their ability to do so in a private manner is protected by the Constitution. It's defined in the Constitution. So a man with another man can make any contract they want. Just so you understand, the reason that they make them persons, the corporations, is so that they can get control of you. That's that 14th Amendment. If you're a 14th Amendment little c U.S. citizen, then you're a slave. You are contracted as the lesser party by contract. They'll take care of you when you're old. They'll take care of your health. You do what they say. You're their property. You're their chattel property. You're the collateral for this debt under this system. Now, here's the thing. I hear these whiny baby men calling up, beating their chests. Enough of this. You have real power. Check out hisadvocates.org. If you're not a Christian, statecitizen.org. The bottom line is, if you look at a U.S. passport application, there's two citizens. One is a non-citizen national. The other is a U.S. citizen. Passports are given to both. It's just one is above the law because the law is just a bunch of men. I mean, Mike, we may not agree on whether there's a God or what, but we all know that no man made you. What in the world are we doing handing ourselves over to them? Well, take these shots, wear a mask. Who are these people? And then with regard to the COVID, you need to understand this is a bioweapon. Now, people, please put your recorder on for a second. So I'm going to read you this article name, Mycoplasma, the linking pathogen in neurosystemic diseases by Professor
Lauren,
Tom Scott.
Lauren, I'm sorry. Can you call in? Yeah, we're out of time. Can you call in tomorrow and you can read it to us then? My apologies to those waiting on hold who did not get on the air. Please call in tomorrow. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller's program. I'm sure he's got lots of fascinating things to share with you. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.